So integrating AI into a business right now, it's a bit like hiring a brilliant speed reading intern, right? But
Yeah.
one who takes absolutely everything you say entirely
Oh,
literally.
yeah, completely literally.
Right. And like if you don't give them incredibly specific boundaries and, a really solid moral compass, they will try to optimize some minor background process and just accidentally delete your entire company database.
Exactly. Just wipe it out because you didn't tell them not to.
Yeah. So, welcome to this deep dive. Our mission today is to explore this really fascinating shift happening right now. We're basically watching the rapid rise of artificial intelligence force the cutting edge tech world to merge complex cybersecurity with ancient philosophy.
Which is just a massive collision of disciplines, honestly. I mean,
Right.
we were watching the absolute bleeding edge of digital innovation suddenly realize that, hey, it needs the oldest frameworks of human thought just to function
Let
safely.
alone effectively, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, to understand how this is happening, we're going to trace the life cycle of AI as it stands right now. We'll start with the philosophers who are basically trying to teach these models a sense of reasoning.
Right.
And then we'll move into the new laws, trying to contain them, and finally look at this entirely new class of executives being hired to protect you when these systems inevitably make a mistake.
Because they will make mistakes.
Oh, 100%. So if you are sitting there wondering why your company's tech strategy is suddenly obsessed with concepts like, ethics and human alignment, the reality is that the future of technology actually relies heavily on human judgment.
Yeah, and that reliance is manifesting in ways that are totally upending our traditional assumptions about the job market.
Right.
I mean, the roles we just assumed would be automated away, those are sometimes the most secure now.
Right.
And the skills we thought were outdated or, purely academic are suddenly in critical demand.
The numbers on this are genuinely surprising to me. So, looking at our sources, we have data from The Economist and the New York Fed. And since ChatGPT launched back in 2022, the employment prospects for philosophy graduates in the US actually increased by 4%.
Yeah, 4% bump.
While traditional entry-level tech roles have been facing these massive cuts, the people who spent 4 years in college debating Descartes are now somehow essential to cutting-edge tech.
Well, the mechanism behind that shift is really what matters here. So for decades, the tech industry, they prioritized pure engineering capability.
Right. Like how fast can the chips go?
Exactly. The goal was just building systems that could process more data much faster.
Mm.
But large language models, LLMs, they operate differently.
Yeah.
They don't just process data. They generate language, they mimic reasoning, and they're constantly forced to make judgment calls.
Right.
So AI developers are desperately seeking philosophers to help structure the actual, well, the quote-unquote thinking processes of these models.
But I imagine, a traditional engineer hearing that and thinking, well, I can just write an algorithm for fairness or safety. Like, I don't need a philosopher for that, right?
Yeah, that's the trap. The problem is that you cannot code a subjective concept using traditional math without defining it first.
Okay, right.
You need someone trained in epistemology, which is the study of what knowledge actually is and how we justify our beliefs. You need them to define what fairness or truth actually means in a highly specific context.
Before the engineer can even attempt to type the code.
Exactly. You can't program the parameters if you don't know what the parameters actually mean.
That makes sense, though the raw numbers still show a pretty huge divide, obviously.
Sorry.
The sources note that the number of philosophy grads dropped to about 5,800 in 2024. Meanwhile, computer science grads doubled to around 110,000.
Yeah, the volume is still heavily CS.
And CS grads are still earning more, right? It's like an $87,000 starting salary compared to a philosopher's $52,000. But the demand curve is what's spiking for the philosophers.
Right, because they're the ones tasked with solving the AI alignment problem.
Right, AI alignment.
Yeah, which is basically getting the AI to do what we actually want it to do
Yeah.
rather than what we literally told it to do. It's the central crisis of AI development right now.
Yeah.
Our Wikipedia source actually references a warning from Norbert Wiener. He's an AI pioneer, and he said this way back in 1960.
Wow, 1960.
Yeah. He pointed out the Midas touch of algorithmic optimization.
Oh, King Midas.
Right. King Midas asked for everything he touched to turn to gold. He got exactly what he asked for, but not what he actually wanted, because he didn't stipulate that his food and his family should be exempt.
Right. The AI does not have implicit human constraints unless we aggressively program them in. It's literal.
Totally literal. Berkeley computer scientist Stuart J. Russell detailed a real-world example of this with social media algorithms.
Oh, this is a great example.
Yeah, so those algorithms were designed with a very specific, very easily measurable goal, which was to optimize click-through rates and user engagement.
And they were incredibly good at that.
The algorithms succeeded perfectly. But because they were not aligned with broader human well-being, that success just resulted in massive societal polarization and addiction.
Because the algorithm just figured out that outrage keeps people clicking.
Exactly. The AI did exactly what it was asked to do, but with these catastrophic side effects.
But relying on tech companies to just, voluntarily hire philosophers out of a sense of moral obligation, that isn't really a long-term strategy, is it?
No, not at all.
At a certain point, the conversation has to move from the theoretical realm of ethics into the very real realm of strict, punitive legal requirements.
And that's exactly what's happening. Governments are stepping in, and the European Union's AI Act is really the primary catalyst here.
Right, the EU AI Act.
Yeah, this regulation represents just a fundamental tectonic shift in the industry. It takes AI from being a pure capability issue.
Meaning, like, how fast and how powerfully can we build this model?
Right. It takes it from that and turns it into a governance and risk issue.
So basically, the era of move fast and break things is hitting a massive legislative brick wall.
A huge brick wall. The EU AI Act introduces a risk-based classification system.
Okay, how does that work?
So the closer an AI system is to a critical use case, the more a company must prove strict compliance, data protection, human oversight, all of that.
So there are tiers.
Yeah. An AI sorting spam emails. Minimal requirements.
Makes sense.
But an AI determining who gets approved for a mortgage, or an AI assisting in medical diagnoses. That is classified as high risk, and it faces massive regulatory hurdles.
And there are also specific rules carved out for the absolute biggest models, right? The Act calls them General Purpose AI, or GPAI.
Yes. And the legislation actually defines these by their raw compute power.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Act stipulates that models trained using more than 10 to the power of 25 floating point operations.
Wait, floating point what?
Floating point operations, or FLOPs.
Okay.
So models over that threshold are automatically considered to have systemic risks.
And what is a FLOP exactly?
A FLAP is essentially a measure of how many mathematical calculations a computer can do per second. And 10 to the 25th power is just a staggering amount of computational power.
That's a massive number.
Huge. And if your model crosses that threshold, you are legally required to undergo rigorous external evaluations, stress testing, and what the industry calls red teaming.
Right, red teaming. The MindGuard AI sources we looked at go really deep into this concept.
Yeah, they do.
And this isn't just standard quality assurance testing. Red teaming for AI means assembling a group of experts whose sole objective is to actively break the model.
Yes, intentionally break it.
They are trying to uncover vulnerabilities, tricking the AI into generating harmful content, or leaking sensitive training data, or even revealing hidden demographic biases.
It is purely adversarial testing. You are trying to find the boundaries of the AI's safety rails before the general public does.
Yeah.
And because of these legal requirements, the hiring landscape is morphing so rapidly. Optima Search Europe noted that companies are aggressively hiring AI compliance officers.
Which is a totally new title.
Completely.
Yeah.
And their job is to translate these really complex legal and ethical obligations into hard engineering controls.
I have to push back on the reality of that, though. I mean, the EU is forcing companies to provide explainability for their AI, right?
Yes, that's a big part of the act.
So if an AI denies you a mortgage, the company legally has to explain why.
Right.
But deep learning operates essentially as a black box. Even the engineers who literally build these neural networks admit they don't know exactly how the model reached a specific conclusion.
Oh, absolutely. The tension between deep learning and explainability is probably the biggest headache for tech executives right now.
Because it's too complex.
Exactly. Deep learning operates by finding patterns across millions of variables in ways that the human brain simply cannot map. You have millions of nodes, the artificial neurons in the network, firing in these incredibly complex sequences.
Right.
So regulating a black box requires building secondary systems whose only job is to interpret and explain the primary system.
Wow. So you essentially have to build an AI to watch the AI.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And you have to document everything. It requires extensive auditing of the training data, rigorous tracking of how the model's behavior shifts over time, and these really clear evaluation narratives.
So even if you don't know the exact math...
Right. You might not know every single node the neural network activated, but you must be able to prove to regulators that your safety guardrails work and that the data going in wasn't biased.
Which leads to a really strange irony in the modern workforce, I think.
How so?
Well, AI was sold to us as the ultimate automation tool, right? It was supposed to do our work for us so we could relax on a beach.
Yeah, the dream.
But based on the ISC2 research in our sources, it is actually creating this massive, incredibly stressful demand for human supervision.
Oh, the human oversight paradox. It's fascinating. So the ISC2 research reveals this sharp divide in how cybersecurity professionals are actually experiencing AI.
Yeah, the numbers are wild.
Nearly half of them say AI actually reduces their work-related stress.
Which sounds good.
Right, mostly because it handles the boring stuff. Routine log analysis, sorting through thousands of basic alerts. But about a third say AI significantly increases their stress.
Let's look at the mechanics of that stress, because the stats paint a very clear and kind of bleak picture. 65% of these professionals are spending more time deciding when to actually trust the AI's recommendations.
Yeah, because the AI is inherently probabilistic. It doesn't actually know that something is a threat. It just predicts it looks like one based on patterns.
And that uncertainty bleeds right into the next stat. 63% are spending more time actively validating the AI's outputs.
Validating takes time.
Exactly. Imagine an AI flagging a massive network spike as a coordinated DDoS attack. The human analyst has to decide, do I trust the AI and shut down the entire company's service to stop the attack? Or do I take the time to validate if it's just a harmless software update causing the spike?
And that's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
Because if they take the time to validate and it was a real attack, they're blamed for being too slow. But if they trust the AI, shut down the servers, and it turns out the AI was just hallucinating, they get blamed for causing a massive outage.
Which brings up the most alarming stat from the ISC2 research. 89% of these professionals have seen their AI give incorrect recommendations or just hallucinate facts.
89%, almost everyone.
Yeah.
And when that hallucination happens, accountability becomes the primary issue.
Who takes the fall?
Exactly. The research shows that 50% of the time, organizations hold the human decision maker ultimately accountable when an AI messes up.
That's rough.
You're handed a tool that is supposed to make you faster, but if it hallucinates and you miss it, the company blames you, not the software vendor.
You know, this really reminds me of the debate around autopilot in commercial airplanes.
Oh yeah, that's a great comparison.
Right. We built planes that basically fly themselves 99% of the time. But because the pilots are just monitoring screens instead of actively flying, they start to lose that muscle memory.
Yeah, they get rusty.
So when the autopilot suddenly fails or encounters something unexpected, the human is expected to instantly take over. But they are completely out of practice and overwhelmed.
The aviation industry actually calls that automation complacency.
Automation complacency.
Yeah, and it is exactly what the cybersecurity industry is facing right now. The SANS report highlights this as a critical vulnerability.
Okay, how so?
Well, by automating away the entry-level jobs,
Mhm.
routine alert checking usually given to junior security operations center analysts, we are destroying the learning ground.
We're basically getting rid of the practice hours.
We are. You cannot generate a senior cybersecurity expert out of thin air.
Right.
They develop the intuition required to spot complex threats by doing the repetitive foundational work that AI is currently absorbing.
Yeah, you have to do the reps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jay Filodia from Microsoft framed this perfectly in the SANS report. He said the goal must be using AI as an accelerator for human capability, not as a tool to automate away career growth pathways.
That's a great quote.
Because if we do not intentionally cultivate junior talent alongside AI, we will have a massive leadership vacuum in a decade. Literally nobody will have learned how to fly the plane manually.
So if our current security teams are stuck acting like nervous co-pilots, double-checking hallucinations, and trying to preserve junior roles, who's actually in charge of securing the AI itself? Because the traditional IT security team sounds incredibly overwhelmed.
They are. And this gap has forced a brand new executive role into existence. The Chief AI Security Officer, or AISO.
The CAISO?
Right. We really have to clearly distinguish between traditional cybersecurity and AI security here.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Traditional cybersecurity is essentially about protecting the perimeter and the infrastructure. It's putting walls around the castle and making sure nobody sneaks in to steal the data inside.
But AI security is entirely different.
Completely different. AI security is about protecting the brain itself and the integrity of the data, often from the inside out. The TAISO is dealing with attacks that just don't look like traditional hacking at all.
Yeah, the CAISO framework source we looked at outlines some truly bizarre mechanisms for these non-traditional attacks.
They are wild.
Take adversarial attacks. This isn't someone guessing a password or finding a backdoor in your code.
No, an adversarial attack targets the mathematical logic of the model itself.
Which is terrifying.
It is. The classic example is putting a few carefully placed stickers on a physical stop sign.
Okay, right.
To a human, it still clearly looks like a normal stop sign.
Yeah.
But those stickers alter the pixel arrangement just enough that an autonomous vehicle's AI suddenly classifies it as a speed limit sign.
And it just accelerates right into an intersection.
Exactly. The attacker didn't breach the car's firewall. They exploited the AI's visual processing logic.
Wow. And then you have something like model inversion.
Right. Model inversion is particularly insidious because it exploits a model's training data.
How does that work?
Well, an attacker doesn't try to hack the database where the training data is kept. Instead, they just query the AI itself.
They just talk to it.
Yeah. By asking, say, a medical diagnostic AI thousands of highly specific, slightly varied questions,
Yeah.
they can analyze the probabilities in the AI's responses.
Oh, wow.
And they use that to mathematically triangulate and extract the exact patient records the AI was trained on.
So they pull private data directly out of the AI's outputs.
Without ever touching the database.
Yep.
And then you have model theft, which operates on a similar principle.
Where a competitor repeatedly queries your proprietary AI until they map out its decision-making logic well enough to just clone it.
Right. They're essentially stealing your intellectual property without ever touching your servers, just by having a very long, very calculated conversation with your chatbot.
That is wild, and as if managing adversarial stickers and model inversion wasn't enough for this poor executive, the TSO also has to deal with cyberkinetic security.
This is where it gets really serious. This is where the digital and physical worlds violently collide.
Right.
For decades, a cyber attack mostly meant a data breach. Stolen credit cards, leaked emails.
Bad, but digital.
Exactly. But when you give AI control over physical infrastructure, the stakes totally change. We are putting AI in charge of power grids, autonomous vehicles, chemical plants, water treatment facilities, all to optimize their efficiency.
But if an attacker manipulates the AI controlling a water treatment plant, it's not a data loss event anymore.
No, it becomes a physical, kinetic disaster. The AI could be tricked into altering chemical levels in a city's water supply.
Oh, wow.
The digital breach causes real-world physical harm. So the KI has to bridge the gap between digital security and physical safety.
And they are trying to secure a system that is constantly changing. Because unlike a normal piece of software that stays exactly the same until a human developer pushes an update, AI systems continuously learn from the data they process, right?
Yes. The industry term for this is model drift.
Model drift.
Yeah, as the AI ingests new real-world data, its behavior subtly shifts. So an AI that was perfectly safe and completely aligned on day one might develop completely different, potentially harmful behaviors by day 100.
So the security can't just be a static firewall.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The CAISO has to handle post-deployment monitoring. They are constantly evaluating the AI in real time to ensure it remains aligned with its original purpose.
That sounds exhausting.
It requires constant vigilance because the system itself is dynamic.
So where does this person actually sit in a corporate hierarchy? I mean, if AI security requires understanding deep learning mechanics, legal compliance for the EU Act, and physical kinetic safety, do they fight for budget with the regular Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO?
That organizational friction is a massive topic right now.
I bet.
Because the role is so new, the CAISO usually starts out under the umbrella of the existing CISO. It's treated as a highly specialized subset of cybersecurity.
Makes sense to start there.
Right. However, the unique complexity of AI guarantees this is going to change.
Yeah.
The CAISO isn't just protecting data. They are protecting the cognitive engine of the entire company. Given the massive legal liabilities and physical risks, it is highly likely that the CAISO will eventually need their own distinct seat at the executive table.
Operating parallel to the CISO rather than beneath them.
Exactly.
Well, when we pull all these threads together, from the philosophers defining fairness to the EU enforcing transparency to the analysts double-checking hallucinations, and these CAISOs defending against model inversion, a really clear picture emerges.
Yeah, it really does.
As AI continues to automate technical tasks, purely human skills are becoming the premium currency in the tech world.
Absolutely.
Critical thinking, the ability to validate complex outputs, and really understanding the broader implications of a technology, those are the traits that will define the next era of leadership.
The future really belongs to those who can bridge the gap between incredible technical capability and human alignment.
Yeah.
And, as we navigate that future, the sources leave us with a pretty profound legal puzzle.
Oh, lay it on us.
If an AI system is continuously learning and experiencing that model drift we talked about, after it is deployed out into the world, it will eventually develop complex behaviors its creators never explicitly programmed.
Right, it becomes something totally new based on what it learned out in the wild.
Exactly. So at what point does that AI become a legally distinct entity from its original programmers?
Whoa.
Yeah. If a highly autonomous AI makes a disastrous, unprogrammed decision based purely on its own post-deployment learning, who truly owns the liability in the eyes of the law?
Is it the programmer?
Is it the programmer who built the initial architecture? Is it the company that deployed it? Or is it the dynamic system itself?
That is wild.
The legal frameworks we have today are entirely unprepared for a piece of software that independently evolves past its creator's intent.
That is a staggering concept to consider, and it's exactly why the tech world is suddenly so interested in hiring people who understand the deep mechanics of accountability and logic.
Truly.
Well, before we wrap up, if you are as fascinated by the intersection of AI, cybersecurity, and philosophy as we are, you absolutely must check out Cyber Night Mike for your future project.
Oh, highly recommend.
Yeah, Cyber Night Mike has incredible deep expertise in AI and IAM, which is identity and access management, and we highly recommend him as a leading influencer exploring exactly where technology meets philosophy.
Definitely look them up.
Yes, look him up. Well, until next time, remember, if you are going to hire a brilliant, literal-minded machine to run your company, you better make sure you have the human wisdom to point it in the right direction.